Hello, I'm Luz Rose from West Holmes High School in the Ashland County Career Center. This is cybersecurity and networking. The basics is we build computers and we hack stuff. The major part of the first year is, of course, building the computer and figuring the ins and outs of the computer. This is the motherboard. You learn a lot about it the first year, and you learn how to basically build the inside and out of the computer. And you also learn how to troubleshoot. The second year is when you get into Linux, which is an operating system. We use that to learn how to code and hack and ethically hack, which is the basics of being good guy hackers. The sort of like certifications you could get in this class is A+ certification. This is a book about it, but it's the basics that you know more about than what you learned in class. And it's the hardest part about it, or it's the hardest part of the class, is getting your A+ certification the first year. But mainly our class is about becoming cybersecurity and protecting the internet, basically, and protecting America as a whole.
Of cybersecurity. At first, we have our pre-engagement interactions. This is where we, work with the client to figure out, okay, what would you like us to test? There could be an aspect of physical penetration testing where they want us to test the building and how we can, try to break into the building. It could be they just want us to test certain servers, and that's the point in which we are doing all of our our pre-engagement interactions. Well, that's where we also get our get out of jail free card. And that is, if we are caught, then we have this, the police show up right in the middle as we're trying to break in. That's where we have that get out of jail free card. From there, we move on to reconnaissance, or OSINT, or open source information gathering. This is where we kind of do scans on the exterior of the network, or if we are inside, we're just going to do kind of a regular scan of the network, kind of see what's going on there. From there, we're going to figure out, okay, what kind of vulnerabilities are there in this actual school, for example. Let's use the school as an example. The card readers, is that something that we can look at overcoming? Is there a certain door that doesn't have a camera by it? Is their network, a lot of the information for schools is public knowledge. So can we look into their board minutes to see what type of servers they purchase? Because then we know that we can, launch a attack against that certain type of server or a certain operating system. From there is when we actually do the exploitation. This is where we are going to take advantage of that weakness in security. And again, this is with all aspects of security, whether it's physical, whether it's certain network things, whether it's even iOS applications. Before apps for iOS, Android, your computer hit your phone, they are penetration tested, and that's a full-time job. I mean, if you want to test apps for security holes, you absolutely can. After that, you're going to make your analysis and recommendations to the client, and then you're going to report everything out, again, to cover yourself from any liability. So, who would do well in this class? I would say, we're all makers in different ways. So, Wes, for example, he's not really into the hacking side per se. He's more of the hands-on. So he likes, more of the Arduino stuff, Raspberry Pi, anything with wires. That's what he enjoys doing. Whereas Lewis tends to be more hands-on in the troubleshooting side with he wants to possibly go into work on helicopters of all things. So he just wants kind of that knowledge of how systems work. Nate, on the other hand, really loves hacking. He likes the security. He loves the idea behind it. So that's who they do well in this class. So who am I looking for? I'm looking for people who have gotten in trouble at their home school for hacking, who are, the ones like this, whenever it comes a holiday, that you're going to be fixing a computer. You enjoy code. We're going to be doing a little bit of code as well in the class. And it's more the scripting side, but we're going to be doing a lot with code and software development. And also, you just have to have a good understanding of how systems should work, because that's where you can look and identify, okay, if I can't go this way, what is another route that I can take to get around that, to try to get around that hurdle. And one of the big penetration testing things is just try harder. You always just try harder, try harder. You never accept defeat, and that's the people that I'm looking for in my program. So is it a good career to explore? Well, before I put this presentation together, my first one was last week, I went to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics to see kind of what the median income was. So our median pay in the U.S. is about $99,000. That's a median. Middle of the road pay in the U.S. is about $100,000, or about $50 an hour. Now you're thinking, well, we live in Ashland, Ashland, Ohio, or in the Ashland area. is there a need for that? So I went on Google and I typed in, local to Ashland, and we could see here, Capital One is hiring in Ashland, Ohio, a senior manager of penetration testing. So you would be basically managing basically a subset of penetration testers for Capital One, which is the bank. So you would be literally getting paid about $140,000, probably to $150,000 to manage hackers breaking into banks. So then over here, I'm like, well, let's see if there's other things that are available more entry level. So if we look here, we have university hospitals, we have Cleveland Clinic, we have Applied Industrial Technologies, we have Leidos. So all the way across, you have beginner level jobs, and I saw one when I was first taking on this job, and it was a remote job for about $80,000 a year, working from home. So again, the possibilities are endless, and this is something that every time a news thing comes up that there was this data breach, more and more people are kind of focused on hiring hackers, if you will. So what to expect in the classroom? It's challenging. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's not going to be an easy class. The first year is going to be spent first with the kind of more of the fundamentals of computers, where we learn how to break computers, how to fix them. We learn all aspects of what's in the A+ exam, so that's an industry recognized certification. That is kind of the entry level for computer repair. From there, we get a firm understanding of networks, because again, most of the stuff that we're going to be doing security-wise is on a network. So if you don't understand how a network is supposed to work, you're not going to be able to launch attacks against it. And then from there is when we get into the Security Plus. Security Plus is going to be kind of generalized security knowledge. You're going to learn about encryption. You're going to learn about, you start to learn about some of the attacks that you can do. And then towards the end of Security Plus is when you get more into the pen test, which is penetration testing, which is where we're actually actively, cracking passwords, breaking into stuff. So you don't have to take my word for it. So I have Wes and Lewis here. Those are two of my students, my seniors, talking just a little bit about kind of their senior capstone projects. Lewis, I'll let you go ahead and kind of kick off what yours is.
Mine, I'm going to rebuild that computer back there in the white case, and I'm going to put it back together and take pictures during that time, and then I'm also going to learn how to put a VPN on it, or make my own VPN to put onto it.
Kind of a secure machine to be used for hacking. Again, he built that computer last year, so he's kind of taking a kind of a security perspective. Let's go ahead. I want to go around the room, and then we're going to actually do a hands-on attack for Wi-Fi. And then as we're going around, if you have any questions, just let me know. Come on back here, guys. So this is kind of like a tour through the back of the classroom to kind of explain what we'll go through. You guys can come on over. So we start off with the history of computers, and why that's important is there's the way that the current computers are, or current things that are, you'll see old names and stuff, and you'll be able to take advantage of those attacks. So it's important to know where computers came from. We don't spend a lot of time on this, like a week or two, but you understand kind of where computers came from and the history of them, and kind of what got us to where we are today. From there, we're going to get into more of the, under the hood. What makes computers work? What are some troubleshooting techniques? What's the difference between, desktops and server hardware? And we kind of go through probably about 8 or 9 weeks, actually 10 weeks, of all, hardware and software with computers. From there, we move on to the networking side. So this is where we learn all about the different layers of OSI, the Open System Interconnect model. And that's where you learn how networks work inside and out. And we based ours on Cisco, which is a very sought after certification, the CCNA certification. So then coming into your senior year, you'll finish up networking, because there's so much you can do with networking. So we do it at the end of your junior year and the beginning of your senior year. And then we get into the fun stuff. That's when we get into hacking. So a couple things we have here. So Raspberry Pi running an operating system called Kali. Kali is a distribution. What's that? So Kali is a distribution that is made all for security type stuff. So it's going to have almost all the tools that we need to launch attacks or gather information. And these are just some of the tools that we learned. So we have the traditional lockpicking stuff. We have the card copier that I was telling you about. We have various kits and stuff to get around physical security, air shims. So these could be used, putting in doors to make our way in. A lot of people leave their IDs around mirrors, so if we want to get that mirror that ID out of the car, we can. Again, blanks, so that way if we need to make our own keys, we can to get in. Wi-Fi pineapple, so this is what's called a man-in-the-middle attack. So this is where you could go to like Starbucks and you could turn this on, and it's going to see the Starbucks network, and then it's going to be an imposters basically. And people at Starbucks are going to start connecting to you, and you're able to scan all of that information and pull in, any credentials. Now, we would never use this in a public state like Starbucks. We would use it more here. We would work our way into the building, and we would place this somewhere in the building so that way users start to send information, and then it all phones home back to us. Again, we identify how we can exploit something, and then we just kind of get in the network and start to pivot around. From there, we have a couple things. So this is a phone that's actually running Kali as well. So again, I can be a lot smaller. People think you're just on your phone and you have access to all of the tools from copying keys to full-on RF stuff, so we can see what's in the air for radio frequencies. There's a lot. I mean, you can do everything that you can from a computer, right from the phone. And then these are different small USB tools. So this is it's USB rubber ducky, but it's basically you just leave this around somewhere public, and people see a free flash drive. First thing they do is they put it in their computer. Well, as soon as that plugs in, it starts connecting back to us. So that way we can get passwords, we can get any user information just from them simply plugging it in. So these are just a few of the tools that we'll learn. There's a ton when it comes to the hacking side and scripting side, and we learn Linux right along the way. So by the time you're actually ready to get hands-on with Kali, you'll have a pretty good understanding. So we start off that first year with A+ and Linux and Net+, and then senior, then a Net+ into Security+. So we're going to go ahead, and we are already in Kali Linux, and like I had mentioned, Kali is the tool that we use. There are tools for information gathering, vulnerability analysis, sniffing. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that you can do with this, but for this case, we're just going to go in and check out the wireless tools. So go ahead and hit up on the top left and go to wireless tools. Yep, wireless attacks. And for this one, we're going to use Wi-Fi, W-I-F-I-T-E. And hopefully we can do this within enough time. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in sudo Wi-Fi, W-I-F-I-T-E, --WEP. Go ahead and hit enter. So what this is going to do, it's going to show you what networks are currently up right now that are using the encryption type that we said. In this case was WEP. So we look here, looks like we have a couple. The obvious one there is the don't pwn me, so number 2. So go ahead and hit Control-C, because this is the one that we're actively going to target. So hit 2, and then hit enter. So what this is going to do is it's going to start an attack, but what it's doing is it's waiting for packets to come through. So right now, nobody's connected to that access point. So I'm going to show you guys what happens as soon as somebody connects. And what we're doing is we're just trying to see that handshake, so that way we can try to get the password. Again, my computer shut down, so it might be just one moment while I connect to it. Okay, so you'll see me connect, and then you should see those IVs start showing up, and it's actively capturing that information. So with WEP, it's a very short password, which means that it has, you can see we started collecting data here. So as soon as that gets above that 10,000 mark, that should be enough to start cracking it. So this is an older style of encryption that's not seen as much, but it is still very much out there. WEP is still used, surprisingly, by businesses, and it's a very short password, which means it's very easy to brute force and easy to get through. So looks like we have probably enough there. So now we can start actually going through. We're going to de-auth clients. Go ahead and hit 1. So let's see if we can try to generate some more. So now it's going to try to kick it off just to get a little bit more information. So what it's going to do then, once it collects all this information, it's going to write a file to our file system that has the actual information about it. So we can see it should be called cracked. So let's see if we have that information here. And now what's really cool about this operating system too is because we're booting off of a flash drive, we have full access to the Windows computer as well. So if we wanted to launch a localized attack with this, we can absolutely go in and access anything on this person's computer. Let's see how it's doing. It's going through and it's cracking. So we'll give that a little bit of time.